Hello. So, in the last episode, first of all, I'm going to fix my background. So, I've got this way too big because I made it bigger last time so we could look through and make all these selectable. And I don't actually need this anymore. I'm actually going to delete it now. So, what we're going to do in this is we're actually going to make a scene. And I would like to try and make a scene from scratch. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Shift A and then add a plane, as you can see here. And you'll notice it's quite small currently, so I'm going to press 7 and select it, and I'm going to bring it up just to about there. The size actually doesn't matter that much because we can edit that later. But I'm going to also hide this. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to hide all of it. So I'm just going to... all I've done is I've selected all of it, and I'm just going to press H. I'm going to hide these as well. H. So H hides them. I can hold Alt H to bring it back, but I don't want to. I want them hidden. So at the moment, we've just got a plane, and it's not really doing anything. Make sure we're in cycles, which I am. I'm also going to change my feature set to experimental. Next up, I'm going to go into my material properties, and I'm going to give it a material. So I decided that I'm going to do a moon render. So I'm going to try and make it look like a moon. To do that, we're going to have to do a little bit of displacement. So I want to go to settings, change it from bump only to displacement and bump. I'm going to go into the shading. So as you can see what we have here currently, what we're going to do first is I'm going to add in a displacement node, which should slightly, so as you can see that line is not quite on target at the moment, which is fine. And then we're going to bring in a texture, and I think we're going to go for a Voronoi texture. I think we can get away with that. But as you can see, I'm getting very little bump or anything. Reason for that is I need to go to here, select it, subdivide, and I'm going to max out this subdivision. And now you can see I have actually got a little bit of bumpiness. It's a little bit hard to see because I haven't got any lights. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Shift A again, add a light. All I'm going to do is a sun lamp. I'm going to just bring it up, rotate it slightly, and that is all I'm going to do for that. Okay. So what I'm going to do, just for the ease of it, anything that I attach into here, I'm also going to attach into this base color. I don't actually think I want the color. I think I just want the alpha into that, so I get just a black and white. Perfect. There's a 3D or 2D. I think I actually technically want 2D for this. But I need a larger scale. Zero randomness. I actually do want randomness. Let's see what these do. Don't like Manhattan. Don't like Chebyshev. Minosky. Looks very different. Euclidean. I think that's probably more what I'm after. I'm going to add another modifier. Subdivision. I'm going to crank that up. You can see I've got quite a lot of bump in here now. Probably don't want the scale that high, to be honest. Really around here. So the black bits in there are the low bits and the white bits are the high bits. So I'm actually going to get a color ramp, and I want the color ramp to affect both sides. So I actually want these black bits out more, because these, if you haven't worked out already, I want it to slightly ease in meant to look like slight potholes. So actually I want to bring this back slightly, and I want to have a slightly dark greyish colour around there so that I can use that as the ease point. Okay, and I can probably scale. How flat is it currently? It's actually very flat. So maybe if I go 3D, because I noticed on the one of the others it went a lot more bumped. But what we'll do is I'll keep experimenting until we can get, oh, that's horrible, back on the one we were on. Where is it? Euclidean? I think that was it. Okay. Change that to adaptive. Make sure I've got the settings correct. Displacement and bump. Displacement. Ah, there we go. As you can see, now we have actually got that bump. I could make it extreme if I wanted to. Obviously, I do not want it that extreme. But what I want to do is I want something a little bit like this. Maybe slightly less than that. So along the lines of that. Looks like we've got some sort of craters that have hit and stuff like that. That's the idea, at least. I actually want to slightly, so I'm going to have another bit that's white here. I can actually select it so that we can slightly ease it, because if you've got very sharp white lines that go along these bits, so if I can just lessen that slightly. So you can sort of see how this works, and then it looks like we've got sort of craters that crash down. I'm actually going to go up another, probably to 2, to about 0.8. Brilliant. The great thing about doing it like this is that I can also use that exact texture that we've currently got plugged in here to decide what kind of textures we have. So I'm also going to add a little bit more stuff to this. So I want a noise texture. So I'm going to go for a mix RGB. I'm going to add that one in as well. So yeah, we've got this here. As you can see, that makes it very fluffy. For those that previously saw my my snow, this is a very similar method that I'm using here. And what I'm also going to use is a math node, because I actually am going to want to clamp this a bit. Oh, not add on it, on multiply around about 0.2. And okay, that's way too powerful. So all I want is some slight additional bump in the texture. Actually, I think I know what I'm doing wrong here. I think I want this still going into here, and I want this going in after for the additional bump going in. I think I still want it to be primarily the first one, to about there. No, I still want it on multiply. So all I'm looking for is just that tiny little bit of additional bump in between different parts. Let's put some distortion in there. I might actually need to raise this a bit. I'll expect that as I raise the number of subdivisions in the viewport, for obvious reasons, it means it's going to subdivide more, which will slow everything down a bit. Okay, so I'm actually going to put it down a little bit because that's taken a bit long. Mainly because it was on just shy of 1 million. Oh, that changed the mesh quite a lot as well. So I don't think we want it that high. Ah, there we go. Now we're getting sort of what I'm after. I don't want it too strong. I just want that slight roughness of the moon. And I think that is about what I want. Perfect. So now we've got this, which is our displacement. So this whole bottom bit here is our displacement. I think I can go label. Can't remember how to label. Is it L? L? No. It doesn't massively matter. I don't usually use labels. I was going to do that just to make it a little bit easier, but no. Okay, no labels. I'm sorry. We will be reusing some of this. So we're using that, this bit onwards from here is all stuff we're going to use in deciding where our textures go. Because I am going to use a couple of different rock textures. You can find rock textures online. You don't have to use these exact rock textures. It doesn't matter at all. I don't know what the screen looks like while I go into my files or not, but so what I'm going to have a look at, I'm going to look at this grey chunky rock. That one, I think I can probably make use of that. So I don't want that on a vertical list because all I'm looking for is colour here. Which will now go here. And I don't actually need it that big. Actually, I won't use that because you won't have that. So I was using an add-on there called Node Wrangler, but what I'm about to do is go Vector and Mapping, and plug the mapping node into the vector, which will make it go grey. That's fine. I'm going to go Search, and I'm going to go Texture Coordinate, and I want it to go by UVs. I want it to be UVs for all of them, so just onto the vector. And that'll look exactly the same. However, it will allow me to now resize this to whatever I like. And I'm going to keep it like that for now. You have to bear with, and the more we put in, the better we'll have it looking. Next up, I'm going to bring in the gloss. There, and again I want to use the same mapping node. Next up, bring it to this one, and for this one all I want is a normal. So I'm also going to need a vector normal map to plug that one to here. And I want to set these two both to non-color. And I can actually crank this up now, which will make all of these bumps and things much more pronounced, or I can bring it down, which I'm probably going to do to about 0.4, about 0.5. We've got some nice bump. There's a couple of different things we're going to do with that. That one stays up here, but I'm going to need more space. So move that up here. One thing you'll notice now is it's quite hard to see some of the displacement we put in. Obviously, for obvious reasons, we don't want to have no displacement because that'll look really bad. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a mix shader. I use the search function way too much. You'll get used to that. And this one. And what we're going to use to decide where different textures go is going to be from this one here. I'm actually just going to bring it up to make it easier. It can be sometimes quite awkward to see these things when you're very zoomed out, so I'm going to bring this into the factor. And instantly you can see quite a big change. You'll also notice that I've actually kind of got it the wrong way around from where I want it, so I'm just going to go invert. Oh, I can do that. Yeah, invert, there we go. There we go. So it's now inverted. Now we've got that rock texture I just brought in around the top bits, but I want the inner bits to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to use a completely separate texture for this one, which I'm going to put into this one. So I want to bring again another texture, image texture, and plug it in, which will create that horrible purple look that I'm sure you're all familiar with. Polygon files. Again, you can use any texture for this. You could, if you wanted to, even just make your own. I was very tempted to try to make my own, but I don't want to drag out a video for too long. Am I looking for a metal or a rock? Probably a rock, because it's still rock, but maybe more of a. Oh, I got a couple of slate ones here. Probably a rock dark. What's this look like? Yeah, that could work. That could work nicely. There we go. So we've got the darker bits coming in underneath. And make sure, obviously, again, bring in the gloss, sort of roughness, and the normal vector normal map. Brilliant. And probably bring that to about 0.7. Non-color, non-color. And that is what we've got currently for our sort of moon texture, with the inverted caveats are all a slightly different color than the others, and which hopefully will look really nice if we were to get the shading right. So what I'm going to do quickly is something slightly gross, but I'm going to slightly, maybe an extra subdivision. Oh, look at that. We've got lots of nice little bumps in there, and that's what I think I'm going to go with. What I've done now is I put an incredibly harsh light that's going straight across, which has properly brought out all of our little bumps and crevices. I won't use this harsh of a light. I will be using a relatively harsh light, but not that harsh. I'll probably go for something more along that lines, which should still be quite harsh, but we're on the moon, so yeah, you got lots of bumps and grooves and crevices in there. Brilliant. The best thing is it's still a flat plane, and if you press tab, that's it. Very, very simple, which is why I like doing these things. So what I'm going to do is let's bring the character back. I've realised I've been working on the wrong side. I'm actually going to flip it over because I do want the light to be shining from the right side. Let's have a look and see what we've got. One thing you might notice instantly is actually it's worked pretty well, but I was worried that the body would be really, really morphed into the ground, and actually not too bad. We've got a long shadow on the character as well. So let's place a camera in and start deciding on our angle. So there won't actually be many lights added to this scene. The reason I'm not going to add many lights is because we want to be on the moon. So the light source should be the sun. So it should really only be the sun, which would obviously, for obvious reasons, mean that we won't have a lot of other stuff. I do need to be slightly careful because the ground is going to be very dependent on the number of subdivisions we have. So I might have to put the subdivisions up again. Let's click the optimal display. Try and keep this as neat as we can get it. We've got lots of sort of harsh bumps in there. Every time I add an extra level, I've got to wait for it to sort of re-render. I just want to get it to a point where it's like slightly rubbing there. We're going to add a 10 to that dicing scale. I might actually go slightly higher. I might actually go all the way up to 20. However, that won't kick in until actually rendering. It should be alright. Okay. So, obviously again, if I go back into rendered mode, I'm going to keep going in and out, which is going to eventually, when this loads. Sorry, this is a slow part. The ground still looks very flat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slightly distort the ground. There's a couple of different ways I can do this. Luckily, because I've used a material, I can actually just edit the ground. Well, I'm going to take the opportunity. We're going to go into sculpting. And what we're going to do is I'm literally just going to use the draw. And we're just going to raise bits. I'm going to turn off this symmetry. Smudge a bit down. Go into this. And as you can see, all we're doing is just raising some parts so that we've got a little bit more variance in here. But we only need to do it for the areas that are really visible. So something like that maybe. And then we go back into object mode, hit rendered, make sure it hasn't distorted any of the stuff too much. Let me actually hide some of this. That's looking alright. But the background's still a bit dull. Maybe there's something we can add to that. So I mentioned last time that we were going to use a HDRI, and you might have noticed I clicked onto it earlier. But on the layout, I went over to shading, which should obviously have all your textures on. But you can go object and then world. I changed the background down to 0 in order to make the background black. But I'm going to turn it back to 1. And go Shift A, texture, environment texture. Again, I'm going to go to my polygon files. I'm going to use something that I've got labeled as space, I believe. And I think planet atmosphere is it, or crab nebula. And I'm going to use the HDR. And once again, I'm going to connect this up. I'm also going to just check to see what that looks like quick. That should give us a little bit of a spacier background when it's finished loading. It will take longer now because I've just added a HDR, which is a relatively high resolution image. Much more space-like. That alone we might be able to get away with, to be honest. We've got a lot of shadows, we've got some space. The ground looks quite low poly. I'm not sure how it'll look in the final render, but we'll find out. We've got quite a harsh light, which is correct because we're on the moon. If I wanted to, I could perhaps add more stuff in the background. I could model a spaceship there or something like that. I could even add the Earth up there. But these are all things that I would probably want an individual tutorial just for how to model a spaceship or how to model a planet Earth. So that would be more up to you guys if you want to see that. But what I'm going to do is I will finish the video there and I will render it out, and then I'll show you in the end of the this video what it looks like. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.